It's always nice when someone kind of takes a look at something from a different angle and makes you kind of think twice that, you know what, maybe things are not as bad as we thought they were. And I think the opening sentence in this op-ed says it. It says, spend 5 minutes with the news in 2026, and it's hard not to feel uneasy. Then consider this is being written by the school principal who's taking the side that, you know what, if we feel that our kids are unprepared for what's coming next, which is typically what we start hearing lately, right? What are they going to do? They're on their phone all day. They're on tablets. That's not the real world. He suggests, our next guest, his name, by the way, is James Watts. He's principal of Education Plus High School in St-Laurent. Suggests that you write, Mr. Watts, you write, from where I stand, working closely with young people every day as the principal of an alternative high school in Montreal, I would argue the opposite. The kids are not only all right, they may be better equipped for the future than we were. That's a pretty bold statement. Why'd you make it?
I have to tell you, that's my experience. I imagine there are some principals and teachers tuning in saying, I beg to differ. But I've been working with teenagers for the last 35 years, and I see an incredibly large number of healthy students who are informed, who are very connected, and are making great choices. And I think often in headlines you can have an alarmist feeling and shock headlines that say horrible things about young people that sometimes support what people think is out there, but that's not my experience at all.
So, I mean, we look at this as adults every day. We hear this, we follow the news, and obviously kids perhaps do not follow it as closely as we do. We think we have a reason to feel that way. What are kids, the ones you're dealing with, what are they reacting to?
Well, there are a number of things that are very present for them. And our natural environment, for sure, the economy, war, their future. And a lot of these things are concerning to them, and I think they always have been for young people. On the other hand, I think that they have more access to information, more ways of communicating with each other and with reliable resources. I find them a lot more tuned in at school and are willing to discuss these things rather than trying to maybe solve some of these problems, world problems, and their own problems themselves.
I wonder, though, and I don't want to bring this back to adults like all the time, but, we're sitting watching the news or listening to the news and trying to judge what's going on. I found it interesting you said that children are actually paying, the ones you teach are actually paying attention to this as well. These are not toddlers. These are kids in high school, right?
These are teenagers. Okay. Usually in our school, we work with students in grade 10 and 11, next year grade 12. We are working with 15 to 18-year-olds.
And with respect to their future, because that's the thing we've been talking about, right? The fact that it's going to be even harder. And, that first paragraph you wrote about turning out even better than we were, referring to, I guess, the last generation. Why do you feel that?
I think, and maybe there's probably a variety of things. One is information technology and social media. We always hear about the bad sides of that. There are really great sides to that, where the kids are able to connect with other people their age and with experts in their fields and can reach out. I think the other thing that I'm noticing, too, coming out of COVID is that they picked up on this word pivot and decided, no, we're not going to continue down that route. We're going to pivot and not go in a direction that may lead to, places that don't want to end up. And so they're pivoting into really good positions and locations and taking courses that are available to them now at CJAD and professional training. The young people that I work with, they look out there and see how many other opportunities, how many great opportunities are available to them.
Wow. Again, this is kind of eye-opening to me, and I'm sure to some other people listening. You also wrote this, that there's a persistent narrative that young people are apathetic or disconnected when, in fact, in reality, many are more aware than we were, sometimes uncomfortably so. What does uncomfortably so mean?
Yeah, because they become more challenging in class. When we make our big, brave adult statements about the way the world is or the way it should be, I'm not getting them sitting back and just accepting that anymore. They not only come with their own ideas, but they back it up with statistics. And they will, before writing this and during writing this, I consulted with my students, asking them for input. And one came up with Stats Canada, the latest results on teenage health. And these things are backed up by what Stats Canada is also finding, that kids are more independent. They eat more family meals together than they did 5 years ago. Their home life is better. Their self-rated mental health is better. And their rate of happiness, I think, is at 79%, which is way up from 5 or 6 years ago.
Maybe you should start going to your school. Maybe some parents would like to start going there as well. It sounds like a pretty, well-organized group, happy, not, I mentioned happy, one of the issues that always comes up is we refer to this generation as, the anxious generation. You're finding exactly the opposite.
Yeah, there is anxiety, but and that doesn't go away in as far as anxiety. But they found better ways of dealing with it. And I was chatting with a doctor that works in the emergency ward in a hospital in Montreal, and he was saying that he sees that, but he sees kids coming in earlier now than they used to. They know that they can go in and get help before things get out of control.
Wow. I would ask one other thing.
Sure.
I saw a story this week, and I'm not sure this is necessarily the case across the country, but a concern, and it would have to do with high school, that there are kids now just simply choosing not to attend altogether, and that's a concern.
Yeah, and so that really is a challenge for schools, and I saw that in Ontario that they're going to attribute marks to attendance. I think it's time for schools to look at themselves and say, maybe we aren't doing things that the kids want to attend, or they feel they can do better things. So we have to do better as schools. It's not, we tend to put it on the kids saying, you need to show up for these things we're offering, instead of saying, hey, maybe we should look at ourselves and say, how can we do things better so the kids are excited about coming to school?
Are we failing to inspire our kids in school, do you think, for the most part, at least at that level in high school?
I think it can be. It doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be like that. If you have a building with 1,000 teenagers in it, it should be the most vibrant, happy place in the world. And so, again, some of that is my experience, and changing the way we do things. And technology is forcing us to do that. Some of our AI programs that are out now are forcing us to change the way we do education. And that is good. We've been saying this for the last 60 years. If you look at a classroom from 60 years ago now, they more or less look the same, and that's the problem. They need to change not only the way they look, but the way that they act, the way that we work with students, and the way that they move ahead and access their futures.
Just as a final question, so your school, Education Plus High School, I'd never heard of before. Do you run a very different curriculum from a standard and average high school?
Curriculum is the same, just the way that we present it is very different. So we are nature-inspired curriculum, so what we do is a lot of outdoor stuff. We're outside of the school every day, and we are on an intentional trip once a week. So we are climbing mountains. We were up in St-Laurent last Friday, walking along the river, and there's so much information there and ways of teaching. And I do better teaching walking through a forest than I do sitting in a classroom. So it's a different approach to the same curriculum. In the end, all of our students write the same government exams, and they succeed and go on to CJAD and universities. And I've been working at this school for 31 years, and our graduates are 45 years old now and gotten on with their life, and sometimes attribute it to their time at Education Plus.
What an inspiring story. Listen, I hope parents get some benefit from this and say, you know what, it's not as bad as we make it out to be for kids today. And I don't want to say that's just in your school or the way you do it, but it's nice to hear that at least it's happening. At least
I really
somewhere.
Hope so too.
Hey, listen, I want to thank you so much for the time. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Aaron.
Take good care. James Watts over at Education Plus High School. Interesting, right? Same curriculum, just done in a completely different way, and it's working with some very happy kids.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.